Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. You know, this is a remarkable game. Now, it was released in 2003. It's set actually before Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which chronologically makes it, of the four Indiana Jones games that I've played, the first of of them. And you got to admit, with such a captivating title, it would catch people's eyes. I mean, almost everyone has heard of the Emperor's Tomb. It is one of the most legendary mausoleums out there for the first emperor of China. And it, to date, as far as I know, has never been entered. I mean, the finding of it is when it was for a long time a myth until they found the terracotta soldiers. So, you know, to get inside, just to see what's in there it's an archaeological dream come true for many. But I digress, because Indiana is supposed to get a chance to go into the tomb in this game. To an extent. You see, this is also the first Indiana Jones game that you cannot save in the middle of a level. In fact, it has checkpoints. Something I didn't even realize at first. Works on a checkpoint system, and if you die anywhere between checkpoints, you go back to the last one you reached. This is both good and bad. I mean, you could get all the way to close to the end, do something dumb and die, and then you have to redo everything all over again. Did that a few times. It's sort of the get good thinking process for games. But this is how it works. You open the game in British Ceylon and you're searching for an idol. You are also trying to get it before some smugglers or fortune hunters hired by German von Beck gets to it. Now remember, this is set before in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, so we're talking Third Reich Germany. And it's that first area sort of gives you a feel for how the mechanics of the game work. You learn to fight, you learn about using your whip to swing across things, which is a little bit more intuitive than in the Infernal Machine. Although I still try to understand how he can do multiple whip swings when swinging on them. But that's neither here nor there. That's not my job to figure it out. And they also add in the fight that, they add into it that if Indy does get into a fight and get his hat knocked off, he has to always go pick it up. There's a few times I've actually said fuck it, or wondered how the hell does he get his hat back when he goes to the next area. You learn about the various things that you'll be doing, and on occasion you'll learn about adventure mode. A throwback to, I guess, Infernal Machine. Now, of course, you have in certain sections boss-like encounters. Or have to avoid nasty things like sharks, big albino crocodile. That's at the end of the first level, period. In fact, once Indy gets the idol, and we almost have a dangerous encounter with Von Beck. Except the albino crocodile, sort of diffuses that. And at the end of that, we have a cutscene where Indiana goes back to Marshall College and gets approached by a representative from China, a gentleman named Kai, and his apparent assistant, Mei Ying. To which he mentions the Emperor's Tomb and that the key to it is something called the Mirror of Dreams, which, upon opening destroying the idol, we discover the first fragment of this mirror. And there's three. And that the Germans have the second one in Prague. So, we head over to Prague. Raid a castle there to get the second one. And this is a castle. Apparently, there was some devotion to alchemy. There are puzzles galore to solve here. And unfortunately, rope and chain swings. So it obviously takes some time to get used to them. And eventually, once you do get used to them and all that, you can advance better. Find a, quote, astronomical clock in the place, which you have to align and put certain items in to open the next doors. And each one is, once you open one of those doors, you go through it, you get the item you need for the next one, do that, and so forth, until you open a final chamber, which has I'd like to put it in a term that it's, I'd like to say it's the creature more resembles a homunculus than it does a golem or Frankenstein's monster. I think homunculus is probably a good term. Of course, you have to fight it to get the second mirror piece, but Von Beck is there. Obviously, he survived his encounter with the crocodile. You're knocked out and sent off to Istanbul, where the Germans are busy digging into a place to find the third mirror. Now, apparently, this mirror was broken by mystics, not that can be reformed together, but taken down to avoid people from getting the power the first emperor had. He was also not nice about the power. Now, of course, while Indy is captured, someone, to his surprise, Mei Ying comes and rescues him. To which he now must make his way through the German base at Istanbul, the dig site, get down to the underneath, which is full of water, and of course, for some reason, sharks. I do not know why they're there, and other dangerous critters. And of course, you must swim through all these sunken areas, eventually finding your way into the Temple of Poseidon, where there is a kraken of all things, and another fight. Of course, once you defeat the kraken, you get the final piece of the mirror. And you meet up with Mei Ying, who tells you that Kai is not what he seems. He may be, quote, a marshal in Chinese nobility system or whatever. He's also a criminal mastermind. Mei Ying's been working undercover to, you know, get into his organization and, bring him to justice. Thing is, Kai is also very well aware of what's going on, and of course, when you meet at a club in Hong Kong, you now have to fight your way out. Both you and Mei Ying, except Mei Ying gets captured. You must now follow his men, thanks to a friend you have in Hong Kong. Pursue them through the streets, take a boat into their base, which to get to their base you have to go through another base, which Kai is allowing the Germans to use. He's a real nutcase, isn't he? So Indy must sneak through there, go from one part to the next, sometimes riding on top of gondolas and shooting down planes. I'm not kidding on that one. That's actually fun. Working his way through the ductwork in some places, beating up German soldiers. Preventing the alarms from going off like crazy because, hey, some of them are going to use flamethrowers. And eventually, you get through that base to get to a pagoda. This is where Kai calls the center of his operations. And you must get towards the center and even underground to find Mei Ying and rescue her. Oh, and just as you get through all that, fighting all these ninjas, including female ninjas who are very deadly fighters, and the underground, which is now adds a supernatural element, and you have to get a weapon that can wipe them out too. And you get to Mei Ying, who has been possessed by a spirit of a dragon or something, so you have to defeat that and rescue her. To which you also end up getting the Mirror of Dreams in completion. So you and her head off to the Emperor's tomb. course, it's full of traps that you have to mentally figure out. Traps that are invisible to the eye, which you will have to find a way to get through, as well as shutting them down to get deeper in, solving puzzles. And eventually, we run to a large trench-like area with pitfalls in it. So what do we have to do to get past that? Well, obviously, we just have to swing over the pits. How hard can that be? Hey, guess who's back? Von Beck. Yeah, and he's not thrilled. And he's chasing you with a tank, so you're outrunning it, swinging over the pits. Apparently, there's this mechanical arm that can try and grab you. And eventually, you have to outrun him. You get to this slide area, you gotta swing across it. You gotta actually turn around and watch him go through, once you're ahead of him. You can actually turn around and watch. He'll eventually, it has a cutscene too that does it. He goes coming down this slope. He can't jump. And he just falls to his death. Finally! He's gone. To which you also find the entrance to the Netherrealm, where you have to work your way through that. Through a bunch of puzzles that cause platforms to levitate and dodging terracotta soldiers possessed by spirits, malevolent spirits, or whatever you want to call them, being controlled by commanded by another one, which you have to defeat the one and let them charge and, all that, wear themselves down, raise these platforms in a certain pattern, but also have to keep them up so you can make your way across. Works to figure out which one brings up the closest platform, and then figure out which ones bring up the later platforms, then get them in that order so you can go across, because eventually they will fall. Then you have to go through another puzzle section where you have to follow where you're supposed to stand. You saw one earlier that was sort of reminiscent of an old puzzle. That you have to do. And then you eventually reach the Emperor. The Black Pearl is his prize. Claim it. And he gets possessed for a bit before Kai takes it. You then have to fight him. Go into, fight your way to him again, where he now has a dragon-ass command, and you have to perform. You have to catch each one of 5 elements and strike him with each one with your mystical weapon. Once you do that, you then, of course, eventually he loses that power, and all of the souls of the first Emperor's victims come after him and tear him apart. The dragon's gone. You escape the collapsing reality that is that caused by that power, and you successfully return to Hong Kong. Celebrate a moment of victory with Mei Ying before you have to me- have that meeting that is the start of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You know, game wise, it's very fluid. It's very straightforward. I mean, there are artifacts you can find across the way, and there's also ways to replenish your health packs, first aid kits, and of course, water from water fountains. Always a blessing. Take a couple bullets, drink some water, you'll be fine. It's a game that welcomes thinking, because the last thing you might want to do is charge into a fist fight with your charge into fight, you know, bring a knife to a gunfight, Don't do that. And it's also much easier to do some of the climbing sections when you wipe out your possible threats. Of course, some sections are also very heart, you know, heart wrenching, especially those where a fall will kill you, or you have a large open area and the missed swing is death. The save system, if it doesn't really present itself to you or explain it some way, you don't necessarily catch it. I mean, obviously, you quote save the game at every checkpoint. The game automatically saves it to checkpoints. And for some games, that is enough. I mean, became a practice that, save at the checkpoint. Okay. Oh, well, we'll save every time you complete something, too. Then when you go back to like you save at a scene change. Okay, well, that makes sense. But when you got stuff like risky jumps every step of the way, that does hurt you. Mind you, I got through it all. Took some time, but I got through it. And of course, it's chronologically, while it's the fourth game that was, quote, released, it fits in before all the others. The only reason I didn't play it first is because at the time I started doing this, I don't think I had it. But it's a lot better looking than Infernal Machine. It's a more, well, it looks more realistic. It's kind of fun to have the fist fights I mean, that's another thing. When you knock an enemy down, they'll drop their weapon and you can grab it. And of course, if you switch off of that weapon, then they can't knock it out of your hands. Don't ask me where he's keeping all these weapons. But it's one of, that the mystical blade weapon, that's the only one you never lose. But that made the supernatural enemies a lot easier to fight. Overall, it is a fun game. It can be a little bit frustrating with that save system, with that checkpoint system, especially with some of those parts where you wish you could save or had a partial checkpoint. I mean, I did that Von Beck section so many times. But This was actually a decent This was a good Indiana Jones adventure. I did enjoy it. And that's what I'm going to say about this one. And next time around, I'm going to be talking more about the series in general. So please check that out. And if you've made it this far, thank you for listening as I talk about this game. Take care, all. Bye.